Chapter 41. Master Quan, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Master Quan Translator. Lonely Tree Shock. The moment Father Mo and Mo Yun saw the scene inside the resting lounge, the shock rendered them speechless. A barely noticeable excitement crossed Xiao Yu's eyes. She made those claims, but she didn't expect Mo Li to really be so brazen. She was openly seducing another man at a public spot. If this was seen by anyone else, Mo Li's reputation would be ruined. Mo Yun could not believe his eyes. What is this girl doing? A fury burned through him. He had the urge to run over to yank the man off Mo Li. However, before his body moved, his voice already did. What the hell do you think you're doing here? Mo Li was frozen solid. She hugged the pillow and sank into the soft cushion. In her resistance, the folds of her qipao had slid up to reveal her fair legs. She bit on the man's wrist, hoping for him to let go, but from the other's perspective, it was like she was giving him a love bite. It was at that moment that Quan Yu's eyelids fluttered open. The pain did do the trick. Mo Li let go of her bite. Quan Yu smiled at the girl in his arms. He had something to say when he realized the tension around him. From the corner of his eyes, he noticed there were other people in the room. Mo Yi also didn't expect to walk in on a scene like this. His precious daughter was pressed under a man and showed no sign of struggle. What he didn't know was that the man's grip and weight were so heavy that any struggle on Mo Li's part had gone unnoticed. Xiao Yu looked at this and could barely contain the joy in her eyes. When Mo Li arrived at the ball earlier, Xiao Yu was wondering why Mo Li was done up differently from usual. Mo Li normally wasn't a person to wear lipstick, but today, her red lips shone like ruby. Now she understood why Mo Li was here to meet her lover. Xiao Yu thought to herself. This bitch is such a vixen. I've underestimated her, but this is good. Lil, sister Mo Li, how could you? No wonder you don't want to dance, you already have a date with this savage swine. You're still too young for something like this. Xiao Yu gasped dramatically. For her, the more people who came from being attracted by her shouts, the better. People needed to see this. Once this spread, Mo Li's reputation at Pear River City would be ruined. Quan Yu had been called many things, but savage swine was a first. He had heard enough. Savage swine. Quan Yu chuckled to himself as he saw Mo Li glare at him. Then he finally extricated himself from her. He turned to look at the new arrivals, particularly the woman who just branded him a savage swine. His gaze was so chilly that Xiao Yu couldn't help but shiver. It was like she was looking into a wintry pool. But soon, Xiao Yu came to her senses. There was no reason for her to feel like that. It was Mo Li and this man who were in the wrong. She was the person who was there to expose them for their illicit rendezvous. She was the good guys here. With that surge of confidence, Xiao Yu straightened her spine and turned to meet Quan Yu's handsome face. For a moment, her face blushed with shyness. Who is this man? How can he be so handsome? And more importantly, why would he fall for someone as mundane as Mo Li? It must be Mo Li, the vixen who has seduced him. Why are you glaring at me? I don't know who you are, but do you know what place is this? Do you have no shame? Xiao Yu might think the man to be handsome, but she was not going to forget about her real job, which was to wedge discord between Mo Li and her family. Sister Xiao Yu, you've jumped to the wrong conclusion. This gentleman was not feeling well earlier, so I was only checking his vitals. Really? You need him to lie on top of you to do that? Xiao Yu countered sarcastically. She was so in her groove that she forgot Father Mo and Mo Yun were there. If there was someone to lecture Mo Li, it would be them and not her. When I walked in earlier, I saw this gentleman sitting right here. His face was pale, so I came to check on him. Mo Li then slowly stood up, stressing the explanation. Sister Xiao Yu, why do you insist on your version of the truth without even giving me and this gentleman the chance to explain ourselves? Is there a reason behind your insistence? Xiao Yu's face was unsmiling. She refused to budge from her conviction. Seeing this, Mo Li decided to change tact. Mo Li might not be good at making close contact and intimate conversations, but damn if she was not a good logical debater. How could she not be when she had gone through so many proposal defenses and thesis presentations? And one of the debating skills she learnt was that offense was sometimes the best defense. Sister Xiao Yu, a person's assumption says a lot about the person who made them. Why would you instantly jump to the assumption that this gentleman and I were up to something unseemly? Sister Xiao Yu, is it because you often use this place to do such things? And thus assume we were up to the same misdeeds? What are you talking about? Xiao Yu was clearly startled by the words that left Mo Li's lips. Her face was filled with disbelief. Mo Li was basically insinuating that Xiao Yu had met many lovers here. Xiao Yu wanted to snap the bitch in half. How could she ruin her name like that before her beloved Mo Yun? It is clearly you and this savage swine that were up to no good, don't turn this on me. The host of the ball rushed over. When he heard Xiao Yu's latest statement, his face darkened. With a light cough, he sidled to Xiao Yu's side. He pulled on her sleeve and whispered, "Miss, this is the young master of Quan family from the capital, Quan Yu." Chapter 42. Losing Face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Losing Face. Translator. Lonely Tree. Xiao Yu heard the host and saw how he smiled placatingly at the man. Xiao Yu couldn't stop the words from tumbling out. Wait, you mean he's the famed Walking Dead? Once she said that, something struck Xiao Yu and she immediately held her hands over her mouth. Quan Yu sauntered to stand before Xiao Yu. He began slowly, "What did you call me earlier?" Xiao Yu was like a woman who had her vocal cords removed. Her face was as pale as chalk. She was not expecting to run into this man at this place. She already heard from her father that a big character had arrived at Pearl River City recently. If she could befriend him, their Xiao family would have a great future. No, didn't mean. How? Quan Yu pulled Mo Li to his side and said proprietorially, "This lady was not wrong. She has saved my life, but you have instead decided to turn that good deed into something dirty. It is really as what they say, those with a dirty mind will only think of dirty things." Mo Li resisted the urge to shake the man's paws loose from her arms. Since Xiao Yu had dug her own grave, Mo Li decided to just keep her mouth shut and watch the girl slowly bury herself. The other guests who were pointing fingers at Mo Li earlier instantly changed their tone. They turned to point behind Xiao Yu and whispered, "Xiao family's young miss sure is two-faced. How could she try to ruin her own sister's name without even asking for an explanation? She has such a venomous heart. But if you ask me, this young miss from Mo family isn't a good person either. Haven't you heard? She was the one who drove into her own big brother. But I heard the investigation into that case is still ongoing. The actual culprit hasn't been decided yet." "I suppose so. Eventually the truth will come out. But this young miss from Xiao family dares to call Master Quan a savage swine and a living dead. Tut, she is going to have it in for her this time." Quan Yu looked at the frozen statue in his arms. "This girl is quite interesting. She manages to make a convincing argument for herself earlier. That is a sign of quick thinking and great intellect. She might look harmless and innocent, but she is not someone to be crossed. It should be quite an adventure to get to know her better, but before that." Quan Yu waved his hands behind him several times and 2 security guards walked in. "Please escort this lady out of the premise lest she pollute the eyes of my life savior." Hearing that, Mo Li's eyes couldn't help but twitch. That sounds so much like the words of the CEO type from those fluffy romance web novels. The 2 guards in black stormed forward and picked up Xiao Yu, one on each of her arm. The other guests watched the proceeding from the side. They were curious how this was going to develop. It was like watching a live drama. As she was lifted off the ground, Xiao Yu's watery eyes filled with tears. Master Quan. I really didn't know it was you. As the saying goes, blame not the ignorant. At the end of the day, I am Mo family's family friend, in fact I am Mo Li's big sister. Xiao Yu looked at Quan Yu pleadingly. Can you not find it in your heart to forgive me this one time? A cruel smile appeared on Quan Yu's lips. His voice was like a call from hell. Earlier, when you called me a savage swine, a living dead and tried to ruin Mo Li's name, has it crossed your mind that she is, as you said, your little sister? Xiao Yu's body shivered uncontrollably under the scrutiny of that chilly gaze. She then bit on her lips and lowered her eyes. She didn't expect the stupid woman to be so lucky, to have saved Quan Yu when his sickness was acting up. Mo and Mo Yun were equally shocked. So Mo Li was telling the truth. Mo Li has saved Master Quan. But when did Mo Li learn first aid? Seeing as the show was supposed to draw to a close, Mo Li yanked herself out from Quan Yu's grasp. She then pulled on his sleeve and said, Master Quan, after all, she is Mo family's family friend and she is my big sister. If you haul her out like that, it will only ruin our Mo family's reputation by extension. Chapter 43. Hard to deal with. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Hard to deal with. Translator. Lonely Tree. The guests at the event were surprised by Mo Li's statement. They leveled approving looks at her. No wonder she is the daughter of the Mo family, she is extremely generous. I told you so, the girl doesn't look like someone who could be up to no good. Something must be behind that car accident. Before we go back, we should go and talk to Mr. Mo, just in case he accidentally misjudged his own daughter. Actually, now that I think about it, Mo Li and Quan family's young master make quite a loving pair. The man is handsome and the woman is beautiful. Shush, watch what you're saying. You're going to be dead if he hears you. Mo Li then slowly raised her head to meet the rancor in Xiao Yu's eyes. The hatred was so intense that Mo Li could feel it palpably. Mo Li faced it with grace and determination. Her eyes that regarded Xiao Yu was light and insouciant. Quan Yu nodded, he was going to give in to the girl's demand this time. Miss Mo is extremely kind, but that doesn't mean that everyone should get in their heads that she is easily bullied. He turned to Xiao Yu coldly, since Miss Mo Li has decided to forgive you, then you shall have my forgiveness as well. Hearing that, Xiao Yu's face broke with happiness. After you bow and apologize to her, this whole incident will be considered over. But this next sentence chased all her happiness away. It flustered Xiao Yu. He wants me to apologize to that bitch. That was crueler than asking for her life. But with Quan Yu standing there and his torch-like gaze burning into her, what other choice did she have? Xiao Yu forced herself to walk towards Mo Li and then nodded at her. Sister Mo Li. I'm sorry. Quan Yu shook his head with dissatisfaction. Then he tossed out another slogan from the domineering CEO repertoire, I don't think your attitude is sincere enough. Mo Li thought wordlessly to herself. Are you sure you're not enjoying this role a bit too much? Xiao Yu gritted her teeth. This man is such a bastard. There is only one reason why he is doing this to me. I was right earlier, they were indeed frolicking in here earlier. After all, there is no camera in this room and they could have said anything they wanted to repel the rumors. Looking into Mo Li's emotionless eyes, Xiao Yu gritted her fists. Then she bowed until her forehead almost touched her knees and raised her voice, Mo Li, I'm sorry. It was my fault for misjudging the situation. I am so sorry. Are you satisfied now? Quan Yu's eyes scanned over Xiao Yu, non-verbal approval of her sincerity. That one sweep caused Xiao Yu's heart to quiver. Once the incident here was spread through the town, it would be extremely harmful to the Xiao family. It would definitely affect their family company stock. According to outside rumor, this young master from Quan family was extremely arrogant and was said to suffer from a manic temper. Those who were unlucky to cross his path would suffer for it. Xiao Yu could definitely attest to that. Everyone saw that she was about to be hauled out of the event that night. No other event organizers would extend an invitation to her anymore. Even if she did, she wouldn't have the face to mix among the socialites again. Master Quan. Mo looked at his daughter and sighed. It is Mo Li's fortune to have saved you, but now that it is over, should bring her home already. Then he turned to Mo Li and said in a voice that brooked no argument, "Well, aren't you coming?" Just as Mo Li prepared to leave with her family, she was pulled back by Quan Yu. "I still have a few words to exchange with my life savior." Quan Yu's meaning was clear. Even Mo had to give the Quan family face. After everyone was gone, Quan Yu finally broke into a smile. He raised his wrist to show Mo Li. Her lipstick stain was still left on his skin. "What do you plan to do about this?" Mo Li shrugged. "Well, you asked for it for collapsing on me." She then handed him a tissue. Then perhaps I should collapse more often." After Mo Li left the lounge, the ball was already over and Xiao Yu had long since departed. It was almost midnight, the money had been raised and items had been donated. Mo Li got into the car with her brother and father. She pulled out the USB and thought about Quan Yu. The last moment before she left the second-floor lounge, Quan Yu suddenly leaped to grab at Mo Li's arm to pull her into his body. Then he leaned in close. The man's lips lingered around the arch of her ear. "The Sacred Heart, huh? Mo Li, I promise you, our game is only beginning." Mo Li in the back seat couldn't help but frown. Her pretty face was set in a severe expression. This Quan Yu was not a simple character. Chapter 44. Bullied Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Bullied Again. Translator. Lonely Tree. Mo Yun and Mo Yi's eyes kept wandering to Mo Li at the back seat. Neither of them said anything though. Why was Mo Li on the second floor? How did she save Quan Yu? Is there nothing else between them? Mo Yu wanted to ask, but he didn't know how to start. What were you doing with Master Quan inside that lounge? In the end, it was Mo Yun who couldn't resist the temptation and asked first. Mo Li was startled by the sudden question and she started. Mo and Mo Yun captured this detail and both of them frowned. "Dad, big brother, please don't worry. When I walked in, Master Quan was in the middle of an asthma attack. I saw him reaching for the table, so I walked over and quickly handed the asthma spray to him." Mo Li said casually like it was the truth. Mo couldn't tell whether his daughter was telling the truth or not. He turned to look out the car window, and sighed under his breath. If that was all, then it would be fine. The two were just casual acquaintance, but if there was something more between them. Mo prayed that it was not that case, or else big events were about to shake the Mo family. When she returned home, it was already too late for Mo Li to check the USB given to her by Quan Yu. After a quick clean-up, she slept. The next day, she woke up early and went to school. Even though it had only been a night, the rumors about Mo Li on the school forum had reached another new height. "I hear she was found naked in Master Quan's bed, and was hauled out after that. Pfft, who does she think she is? Naturally Master Quan would not have time for a slut like her. But I heard she was the one being framed. You are too na.ve. We should be thankful that someone like her is not out there framing someone. She is too cunning to be framed. I wonder how Master Quan will deal with her. He'll probably find someone to assassinate her. At least that is compensation for our brother's leg." "You're right. She would only lose her life, but our brother has lost his dream." Mo Li ignored the people pointing at her and walked to her seat. When Xiao Qin walked into the classroom, the eyes finally turned away from Mo Li. However, their focus was still on her. They turned to Xiao Qin, hoping to get more gossips about Mo Li and Master Quan. There were more bad things said about Mo Li. Sitting at her seat, Emily was reminded of a plot point from the original book. There was a time when something similar happened to the original Emily. A picture was taken of her returning home with a male senior. Rumors said that Emily was going to the motel with him. The book didn't explain it, but Emily was confident that it was Xiao Qing who was behind the rumor, so she made a big mess out of it. Despite her background, the original Emily knew nothing about respect and grace. After she convinced herself that Xiao Qing was the culprit, she started to spread nasty rumors about Xiao Qing. This happened way back when the class was not that familiar with Xiao Qing, they only knew of the famous young miss of the Mo family. To get into her good book, the other students all sided with Emily and bullied Xiao Qing. The irony was that Emily was doing the same thing to Xiao Qing which she believed Xiao Qing had done to her. Xiao Qing was fully isolated and she did not even have one friend. However, as the school term progressed and Emily's true colors started to show, people started to shy away from her. In contrast, Xiao Qing used this opportunity in her acts of innocence as well as kindness to earn more friendships. And now it appeared like history was repeating itself. Emily wondered if the original Emily was right and Xiao Qing was really behind this, or was it someone else. But like the original Emily, she had no evidence either. Unlike the original Emily though, she was not going to raise a fuss unless she had full confidence. Emily sat at her seat pondering all these when something struck her as odd. She turned to the door and then it hit her. Lin Fei didn't come to gift her the daily box of biscuit or stay at the door to sneak looks at her. When Emily walked to her class earlier, she was sure Lin Fei had already arrived at school. Emily didn't expect that Lin Fei would keep on gifting her stuff, but to suddenly stop coming to see her. That was unexpected. Emily hoped that Lin Fei would eventually come out from the door and walk into the classroom to talk to her. Emily worried about Lin Fei. If Emily remembered correctly, Lin Fei had sports class for the first period. Emily decided to go to the field to check up on her potential friend. Emily took several turns and soon reached the school field. When she did, she was stunned. There was a small space next to the warehouse behind the education block. A few familiar faces were there, surrounding Lin Fei in the middle. There were two new faces. They held the water hoses used by the gardeners and shot jets of water at Lin Fei, drenching her completely. Who do you think you are? You think you can look down on us because you're now close to Emily? Do you think she really treats you as a friend? Don't forget that you're a bastard child. If not for your adopted parents, you won't even be here. You're not even qualified to carry our shoes. I've been meaning to do this when I noticed you gave those things to Emily daily. You're so disgusting. Trash. Chapter 45. Take You Home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Take You Home. Translator. Lonely Tree. Lin Fei was drenched from her head to her toe. Her warm brown hair was stuck to her face, she looked horrible. She knelt down on the ground, hugging her knees. Her face was pale. Her lips were pursed together and her body trembled from the cold. Even though it was not winter, the water that poured out from the hoses was cold. Lin Fei's school jacket was missing, she wore only her white school shirt which had been torn. It was so soaking wet that the fabric had turned translucent, the shirt stuck to her body like second skin. The young girl's body was fully exposed and the physical frailty that Emily saw was horrifying. As if feeling Emily's eyes on her, Lin Fei slowly lifted her eyes among the shower of water. When their eyes met, Lin Fei's lips which were frozen purple curled into a smile at Emily. Emily basically ran over and smacked the hose away from the girls. With a stern voice, she berated, "What are you people doing? Are you trying to kill her? Stop right now." When the girls saw Emily, they were all stunned and they took several involuntarily steps back. Only one was the exception. She probably didn't know who Emily was. With a giggle, she walked towards Emily. "Do you know who our boss is?" Go and mind your own business before we mind yours, leave. We're just teaching her a lesson that she needed, what does that has to do with you? Seeing Emily walk over, Lin Fei slowly crawled up from the ground. Her body swayed weakly. Her bunny-like eyes looked at Emily. She then smiled like she was trying to assure Emily that she was fine, despite her physical condition saying otherwise. If you don't want to get expelled, move out of the way. Emily shoved away the girl who blocked her. Emily helped Lin Fei up from the ground. Feeling the girl's shaking body, Emily frowned. Are you all right? Emily asked, but she already knew the truth. From the temperature of Lin Fei's arm, Emily knew that Lin Fei was in real risk of hypothermia. I am fine, cough. Lin Fei coughed every time she spoke. Her thin body shook with her every word. Seeing the state that Lin Fei was in, Emily removed her school jacket and placed it around Lin Fei. Just hang on a bit longer. My family driver will come to fetch me after school. You should come to my home and get changed before you go back. You can't walk back dripping wet like this, it'll be the death of you. Lin Fei kept her head lowered as she shied away from Emily. Her red-rimmed eyes glowed with guile. It was an excitement from having her prey hooked. But her voice that came out was still soft and helpless. There was even an undertone of acceptance to it. No. I don't want to ruin your uniform. Emily sighed and draped her jacket over the girl. Then she turned and walked away. The other girls immediately came to surround her as if not satisfied with her action. Where do you think you're going? Why are you so nice to her? Don't tell me, you're gay. Have you not brought enough shame to Mo family? Disgusting. Emily looked at them in her usual detachedness. She turned her head slowly to take everyone present in, a word of warning, even a cornered rabbit will know how to fight back. Lin Fei, who had retreated to the shadow, was startled when she heard this. She didn't expect Emily to walk away, leaving the bad girls with just a verbal warning. In fact, the girls didn't expect it themselves. From what they heard from their boss, Qin Lu, this Emily was extremely arrogant and brash. However, after a few interactions, they realized that was probably not true. Unless she was truly angered, most of the time Emily would only strike back in self-defense. For example, Joshi provoked Emily first, and Qin Lu was the one who initiated the challenge at the billiard shop. The girls didn't anticipate Emily to just walk away, so they were stunned. This was different from what they expected, which was a fight. As time approached the end of school, Mo Yun materialized at the school with the driver. The driver saw the box in Mo Yun's lap and he asked, "Young master, is that for the madam?" "No, it's for Emily, she has been eyeing this for a long time," Mo Yun said casually. The driver tapped on the steering wheel, and then smiled, "Young master sure is a good brother, Nav Om." Then he turned to the school gate. Emily was walking out, but she had someone else following behind her. Chapter 46. Moving out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Moving out. Translator. Lonely Tree. Mo Yun frowned slightly. Emily was not the kind of person who would bring her friend home. Furthermore, Mo Yun knew all the children of the powerful families at Pearl River, but he had not seen this girl behind Emily before. Along the way home, inside the car, Lin Fei said nothing, but she kept stealing glances at Emily and Mo Yun. When they reached home, Emily explained since Lin Fei was technically her guest, she was bullied because of me at school. Mo Yun didn't say anything but turned to his study because he understood the girl needed to change. After Lin Fei was done changing, Mo Yun walked out and thought to walk Lin Fei to the door as a good host. However, to his surprise, Emily asked Lin Fei to stay for dinner. Mo Yun looked at her strangely. Normally Emily wouldn't even say a word to them on the dinner table, so why was she so friendly around this Lin Fei? Mo Yun took a deep breath. His little sister had always been heterosexual, her sexual orientation wouldn't change overnight, would it? If not, why was Mo Lee treating this girl so differently? After dinner, Mo Lee surprised everyone again by bringing Lin Fei to her study. Lin Fei followed behind her like a bunny hopping after her master. You have to be more careful in the future, and it's for your own safety to distance yourself from me. Please don't send me any more biscuits. Mo Lee's words sounded like she cared for Lin Fei, but her tone was cold. She wanted Lin Fei to stay away from her. Lin Fei stammered for a long time. Her face was red but she came up with nothing. Mo Lee asked for the driver to send Lin Fei home through her phone. Seeing Lin Fei walk out the study door, Mo Lee sighed to herself. At that same moment, Mo Lee walked down the stairs with a deep frown on his face. It was clear that something was bothering him. Mo Yun noticed this and asked, "Father, is there something wrong?" Mo Lee didn't lift his head but only stated, "Lil 3 is allowed to come home already." It was a simple statement but it made Mo Yun's heart skip a beat. He thought about it and decided to call for Mo Lee. In her study, Mo Lee glanced at the calendar on her table. She sighed. She knew this was coming because she had read the original. When she walked down the stairs and saw Mo Yun and Mo Lee sitting there with serious countenances, Mo Lee knew it had to be about that. Lee, Daddy has something to discuss with you." Mo Lee coughed and called Mo Lee by her pet name, hoping to cushion the imminent blow. Mo Lee nodded and didn't respond too agitatedly. It's that, even after a bit of tittering, Mo Lee still didn't know how to phrase the problem. Lil 3 still had a deep resentment towards Mo Lee. This placed the father in a tough spot. In the end, he decided to say it plainly, the doctor has agreed for Mo Jing to come home to rest. Mo Jun couldn't stand his father sometimes. At the company, his father was a quick thinker, calm and clever, but when he was around his daughter, he was hesitant and unconfident. Mo Lee nodded, she already knew about this. In the original, Mo Zheng made a huge fuss at the hospital. He refused to come back home as long as Mo Lee was still there. The doctor said that Mo Zheng's emotions couldn't be affected. If he was placed under too much mental pressure, it would harm his recovery. "So you need me to move out from the house?" Mo Lee asked calmly as she looked Mo Lee and Mo Yun in their eyes. This direct question startled Mo Lee and Mo Yun. They didn't expect Mo Lee to voice this proposition herself. "Well, yes and no. You'll be living with your grandparents, this is perfect because they have been missing you so much." Mo Yun was surprised that Mo Lee was so calm, he was already prepared with the arguments to convince Mo Lee. But Mo Lee only nodded her assent with a shrug. Seeing how understanding Mo Lee was, even Mo Yun was at a loss for words. Mo Lee looked at his daughter and noted how detached she was. Mo Lee's heart bled. "Daddy will personally ferry you there, if you need anything, please tell Daddy," Mo Lee said to make up to Mo Lee. However, Mo Lee only shook her head. She accepted the arrangement peacefully. This only cut deeper into Mo Lee's heart, it made him feel like he had owed his daughter. Chapter 47. Normal friends, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Normal friends translator. Lonely Tree. Mo Lee was certain of Mo Lee's love for her, she never once doubted that. In the original, Mo Lee doted on his daughter endlessly. When he had to send Mo Lee away, his heart was split into pieces. In the original, Mo Lee used suicide as a threat and refused to move out from the house. That escalated the conflict within the family, and the whole Mo family was shrouded in misery. But the current Mo Lee had no intention of doing that. Instead of staying at home to argue with Mo Zheng, why not move in with her grandparents who loved her dearly? This was a win-win situation for everyone. Early the next morning, Mo Lee had people send over Mo Lee's luggage. After a few words with Mo Yun, he went to work. Like usual, Mo Lee went to school. But the moment she stepped through the gate, she was surrounded. "Miss Mo Lee. Hearing someone call her name, Mo Li turned up her head. She remembered this person as Lu Fan. He was another school director, and he was Mo Yi's good friend. It is almost recruitment season for our school again. I hope that you'll participate in our recruitment video, it'll help promote our school. Lu Fan persuaded. After all, this had to do with the school's economy and thus the bonus of all the staff. A tour of the school would be too boring, so Lin Fan decided to include a few shots of the school's notable student. It didn't hurt that Mo Li was a beauty too. Lin Fan then introduced the people surrounding Mo Li. These are the crew members who will be responsible to shoot the recruitment video. Lu Fan then chased the crew a respectable distance away from Mo Li so they wouldn't suffocate her, which Mo Li was thankful for because the close contact was making her increasingly uncomfortable. But clearly, the screening for the crew was not done well because some of them were paparazzi, as evidenced by the question that shot at Mo Li. Miss Mo Li, how is your brother's injury? What is the reason behind his injury? Was it really you who hit him with the car? Lin Fan immediately intercepted, but Mo Li was faster than he was. She smiled and said, he is already much better. She answered calmly with a glow in her eyes. As long as they were not physically pawing at her, fielding these questions was not that hard. It was just an accident. It's unfortunate that there is no surveillance around the accident site, but I'm sure my third brother will clarify the truth after he recovers. Regarding those who intend to injure and slander the Mo family's name, we will not forgive them. Those who held out the recording pen, involuntarily shrank their hands back. How come she is so different from what we heard? The reporters looked at each other and didn't know what to do. Mo Li was definitely not acting like the rumored version of herself. She was not a boisterous, brainless rich girl who could be misled easily. Instead, she responded gracefully and her answers were flawless. She didn't cower before the sudden assault and accusation but replied graciously. A witch out to harm her own brother. Famous male celebrity, now a cripple. This is the killer. The work of an envious heart, the secret of the rich. Before Mo Li arrived, these people already came up with the headlines for their article. But now, the articles were disintegrating in their minds. How could this be? One of the female reporters were not satisfied by this. She pressed on, there's an insider information that it was because you and your brother were fighting that the car accident happened. Miss Mo Li, what do you have to say about that? Mo Li titled her head to the side as if she couldn't believe the accusation that was lampooned at her. It sounds like your insider information is not that accurate then. We were only bickering as siblings do. I am very sad that this happened to my third brother too. The reporters look at each other, not knowing what to say. This Mo Li sure is cunning and shameless. It is already an open secret that she was the one who drove the car into her brother. How could she spew out these lies without a blink of her eyes? Lin Fan decided enough was enough. With a warning glow in his eyes, he said, hey, what are you doing to our school student? Have you people forgotten why you are here? You should be focusing on promoting our school, not this nonsense. However, the reporters were like bloodhounds and Mo Li was the prey. They ignored Lin Fan. One of the thinner female reporters asked, I hear that Miss Mo Li has an unusual relationship with the young master of the Quan family, is that true? Mr. Quan is a kind friend, he is very caring. Mo Li answered evenly, I was lucky to help him once. We are just normal friends. However, the woman didn't give up. Master Quan is rich and handsome, he is viewed as the young generation with the most potential. Does Miss Mo Li really not feel anything around him? How can you not fall for someone like him? Chapter 48. That's Mo Li. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. That's Mo Li. Translator. Lonely Tree. The question was laden with traps. If Mo Li said she was not interested in Kuan Yu, they would say that she looked down on him. If she said she was, she could already see the headlines tomorrow pushing Mo family back to the eye of the storm again. Mo Lee was just thinking about how to resolve this problem when a man walked past not far away. She pointed at him and said, "Everyone has a different vision of beauty and handsomeness, that man over there is more my type." The man only had a side profile, the rest of his face was blocked behind the wall. The reporters all turned around and their gazes fell on the man. Using that opportunity, Mo Lee wanted to sneak away, but she was heavily surrounded by the reporters. Even though the distance was far, everyone could see from his profile that this man was incredibly handsome. Lin Fan nodded. Even a casual passing student at their school was so handsome, this should help their school's image and popularity. After the man walked away, the reporters all whipped their heads back and their eyes fired at Mo Lee like lasers. "Is that gentleman a student here too? Is he Miss Mo Lee's senior? Does he plan to enter the entertainment business? Is he related to your brother? Miss Mo Lee, can you tell us more about him? What is the nature of your relationship? Does Master Kwon know about this? How far along is your relationship? Have you met his parents?" Mo Lee was stumped by these people's presumptions. She was just tossing them a bone, she didn't expect them to make an inquisition out of it. "I don't actually know that person." Then Mo Lee smiled at the stunned faces and hurried to sneak away. Lin Fan was as confused as the reporters. He just wanted for Mo Lee to show up in front of the camera. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. This would definitely garner some attention online, but he wondered if his friend, Mo, would bite his ears off for it or not. "I have to find out who that man is," the woman who posed the hard question said excitedly. She didn't get any dirt on Mo Lee and Kwon Yu, but she got something else. If she could dig up more about this man, then she would have a way to make a big news out of it. Just the thoughts of the clicks her article would generate fueled her. Lin Fan though stood there and thought to him. "Wait, that man earlier wasn't in our school uniform. I don't remember a new staff coming in either, or was that a new transfer student? Even though I only saw his profile, the man has an imposing presence, he should be a unique character." At that moment, the man who was being discussed was seated on the couch in the director's office. He was dressed in a black suit. His legs swung lazily about. The school director sat beside him as they talked to a man on screen. The man on screen said in a genuflective tone, "Yes, yes. Please don't worry and leave this to me. The fact that you're willing to work with our school is already a great honor to us." The man on screen was the school headmaster. After a few perfunctory greetings, he was already covered in sweat. He was not expecting a video call from this man. "By the way, a word of reminder. There are people at your school today taking videos, be careful of the footage that is released." Of course, of course. "We're so sorry to have created this trouble for you. Your appearance here is supposed to be a secret, I don't know why they're here." "It's fine, they're not here for me." Kwon Yu tapped lightly on the tabletop as he said flatly, "I'm just the collateral." "So, are you sure you wish to install that many cameras and surveillance devices around the school?" Kwon Yu looked at the overly cautious headmaster and he couldn't help but laugh. "I remember saying, there is only one purpose I'm here. I wish to improve the situation at this school, to stop bullying at school once and for all." The headmaster finally agreed when he realized Kwon Yu was indeed not there to seek trouble. Installing more cameras was good for them anyway. Lin Fan had been following Mo Lee around the school the whole afternoon to persuade her to join the shooting of the recruitment video. Mo Lee finally got worn down by the man's persistence and agreed. She put on the uniform that was reserved for their school's big events and tied her hair back into a ponytail. She looked a picture of youth. She was like the quintessential first love of every young man, she instantly grabbed the attention of everyone that she passed. It was not until Lin Fan led Mo Lee into the dressing room that the students' eyes could be peeled away. "That was Mo Lee." One of the girls gasped. Chapter 49. I Want Her. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 49. I Want Her. Translator. Lonely Tree. Truly the world is unfair, how can someone so wicked look so innocent and sweet? I think she has ruined my preference in love. Someone please slap me awake. She looks beautiful and that body proportions. It's out of this world. Humph, if you have the same money as the Mo family does, you can achieve that level of unnatural beauty too. Mo Lee entered the dressing room, which was actually just a classroom sequestered for the video shoot. Every other student actor was here as well. When Mo Lee walked through the door, everyone was stunned. Go back to what you're doing, why are you people standing there and staring? Lu Fan followed behind Mo Lee and kicked himself for making this amateurish mistake. He should have prepared a singular room for Mo Lee considering her relationship with the rest of the school. Get your hands away from me. Who asked you to do my make-up anyway? A growl was heard inside the classroom. Mo Lee turned to the voice and was surprised to see Qin Lu there. Qin Lu was indeed a pretty student which could help the video stand out. She looked cute and innocent, a complete contrast to her personality. Qin Lu was angry because a professional make-up artist was assigned to Qiao Qin, but the one assigned to her was so young, too young to be an experienced artist. Mo Lee walked to an empty chair and turned to the make-up artist, which was shouted off by Qin Lu. Hello there, I think you did a wonderful job on her. Do you mind helping me with my make-up? Lu Fan almost choked hearing that. When did Mo Lee become so understanding? In the past, she would rock the world if there was even the smallest detail that was not up to her standard. The make-up artist who was rescued by Mo Lee looked around 20. She was a common-looking girl, the kind who would be lost in a crowd. But the biggest offense was, as a make-up artist, she wore not one shred of make-up on her face. It was little wonder that Qin Lu had no trust in her. However, Mo Lee knew from reading the original that this girl would soon become the disciple of an international stylist. Then her life would be smooth sailing. She'd join Mo Zheng's original company as part of the fashion team and even started her own fashion and make-up line. The girl hesitated. As she was about to agree to come help Mo Lee, another stylist suddenly cut in. Miss Mo Lee, Jiang Yao is a just make-up artist from a photography studio. She doesn't know much. Just wait a minute, I'll be there to help you personally. The stylist thought to herself, that even though this Mo Lee doesn't have a good reputation, she is still the daughter of the Mo family. When people know that I'm the one who helped with her make-up, it'll help my reputation in the business. Mo Lee raised her eyes to the stylist, and you are? The woman smiled a bit too brightly, I'm a graduate from MK Cosmetic School. I used to work with your brother a lot, so just leave yourself to me. Don't worry. Qin Lu rolled her eyes at the woman. This stylist was the one she wanted to help paint her face. However, the stylist deflected her demands in a polite but firm way. Now though she was plying her service so freely to Mo Lee, it rubbed Qin Lu the wrong way. How is everyone faring? As the atmosphere was about to freeze, Qiao Qin walked out from the changing room. She was already a pretty girl, but with the stylist's great hand, her beauty was now arresting. Qin Lu's heart skipped a beat and she started to study her competition. Her make-up looks very natural, but her brows are too light. Her facial features are not so bad, they look easy on the face, but nothing really stands out about them. Yes, I do look better, Qin Lu nodded with satisfaction. The center spot is definitely mine this time. Mo Lee is prettier than Qiao Qin, but she is surrounded by negative press. If she takes the center spot, no one will dare to register at our school. This Qiao Qin is pretty in her own right, but it is not enough to warrant the center spot. After I am done with my make-up and change into my clothes, no one will be paying this Qiao Qin any more attention. It's alright, I don't wish to trouble you if you're busy. Jiang Yao can do my make-up. Mo Lee said as she waved at Jiang Yao. The experienced stylist was startled, she was stumped. This young lady sure has a bad eye for talent. But since she insists on getting a third-rate artist to doodle on her face, who am I to stop her? Chapter 50. Bad Temper. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 50. Bad Temper. Qin Lu chuckled to herself. She was waiting for Emily to make such a mistake. When Emily came out looking at a clown, it would be perfect to help her stand out. Xiao Qing looked around and said softly, Sister Ya, why don't you help Lulu with her makeup? The stylist called Sister Ya looked around. She shrugged. It was not like she had any other choice. Please don't call me Lulu, we just met today. Qin Lu's face darkened immediately. Also, why didn't you have Sister Ya help with your sister, Emily's makeup? I don't need your charity. Xiao Qing's mouth fell open. She stammered twice and then took her seat, fidgeting like a frightened bird. It's because Lily has quite a temper. I'm afraid she might scare Sister Ya. Emily, who had remained silent, suddenly uttered, Oh, please don't say that, people are going to think that I'm some kind of monster who would only bully others. Emily said that with a smile, but the tension behind her words was real. It was even more terrifying than if she rampaged. I have no idea that, in your eyes, I'm nothing more than a bully. Emily said with levity as she turned around to regard Xiao Qing. In that moment it was clear that who the real young miss of the Mo family was. Emily lifted her chin slightly and her eyes brightened. The presence radiated off her naturally. The whole dressing room sunk into silence, even Lu Fan's breathing turned heavier. In that case, perhaps we shouldn't be in the same shoot together then, Xiao Qing. Emily said gently, but her words were pointed, we should be in different frames or else I'm afraid that I might accidentally scare you with my bad temper. That's better for everyone, isn't it? Xiao Qing sweated in her seat. She didn't expect her comment would draw out such a reaction from Emily. When Emily hadn't arrived, everyone was talking behind her back. Xiao Qing figured she could befriend these stylists by agreeing with them and saying that Emily had a bad temper. These people would be great help to her in her future, especially that Jiang Yao. When Sister Ya did her make-up, Xiao Qing studied the other stylists in the room. Even though Jiang Yao was young, her skill was almost as good as Sister Ya. Furthermore, since Jiang Yao was more her age, her familiar make-up style was more youthful and clean, whereas Sister Ya's style was more mature and seductive. It was not the style Xiao Qing was going for. Xiao Qing regretted finagling a chance to work with Sister Ya, but of course she was not going to say that. Furthermore, Emily was a brainless buffoon. With a few clever words, Xiao Qing could easily turn herself into the victim, earning these stylists' sympathy. However, she didn't expect the previously brash Emily would change tactic. Instead of throwing a tantrum, she decided to use her words. Emily said everything with a smile, but every word was heavy with meaning and pointed. Emily was using Xiao Qing's own words against her and tried to force her out from the video. Losing this opportunity would be a big loss for Xiao Qing. Xiao Qing flustered, but for only a moment. She recollected herself and then turned back to her usual tricks. As tears welled in Xiao Qing's eyes, Emily suddenly changed her tone. With a light chuckle, her tone warmed, Oh, please don't take me seriously. I was only joking. Xiao Qing, with your pretty face, I'm sure the camera will love you. You have to help promote our school. Emily chuckled, but the mirth didn't reach her eyes. Qin Lu looked at Emily and she tooted. Then she turned to look at Xiao Qing. It was clear to Qin Lu that this Xiao Qing was a two-faced white lotus. She wondered how Emily managed to stand this girl for so long. Qin Lu hated people like Xiao Qing the most. Noticing Xiao Qing's lack of response, Molly turned back to the mirror. Whether this stylist is willing to work with me or not, it is for her to decide, wouldn't you agree, Miss Jiang? To work for Miss Molly is my honor. No matter the client, I will perform my duty professionally. Jiang Yao picked up an eye palette. But honestly, with Mo Lee's natural appearance, she didn't need much make-up to stand out. While Jiang Yao applied the make-up on Mo Lee, she glanced sideways at Xiao Qin. This Miss Chiao is not as gentle and innocent as they say. Miss Mo Lee never really did or said anything, but the first thing Miss Chiao did was to create the impression in everyone's mind that Miss Mo Lee is hard to work with. Miss Mo Lee personally picked me to work with her. There are so many experienced senior stylists in the classroom, so none of the other girls paid me any attention. Miss Chiao was not as obvious as the other girls, but I knew she wanted to work with Sister Ya as well. Only Miss Mo Lee noticed me. This meant that Miss Mo Lee does have confidence in my skills and is willing to give me a chance. The thought warmed Jiang Yao.